Every time I come outside, I see something new, another little thing to do, or just another little thing to sit and enjoy. And in today's show, I'm going to be taking you through a few of the things that I'm doing and a few of the things that I'm enjoying. And we're preparing now for what we hope will be a glorious summer. I can see the apple blossom just starting to bud on the trees. The Amankia tree is finishing flowering and the leaves are coming through and it's looking beautiful. The tulips are just coming to an end, so we need to get those deadheaded. And I'll share with you an idea that I've got for the bottom of the flower garden, and I think that's going to be something special. Also, I'm going to be laying some weed protection, some membrane in the areas where we're going to be sitting here in preparation for putting down some bark chippings to give this a nice comfortable area to sit in amongst the lovely plants and to be able to share the scents and the joys of those. So there's lots of things to do in today's show. So welcome again to a year's gardening for May 2022. Hello, what a lovely day, Good Friday, and well, it's 45 degrees in the greenhouse. It's so hot in there, got lots of water on the plants, but out here I've just finished preparing this lovely bed for my potatoes. Seed potatoes are looking really good, and these are going to go in fairly close together today because these are our first earlies. Nice small potatoes, salad potatoes, boiling potatoes. I've prepared the ground, dug a trench about 1 foot wide and about 8 inches deep, and I've filled the bottom with some compost to give these a nice bit of food. These have been chitting away for quite a while and we've got nice little shoots on there. So we're just going to pop those in around about 8 inches apart. Because they're not going to be big potatoes, so they don't need too much space. Just keep those going in here. That's my first tray. Oh, I've got quite a few trays of these. So that'll be my first row. I'll put another row in on the other side, and all we'll do is we'll fill down the soil over these. God, I'd love to know, whenever you see Monty on on Gardener's World on the telly, there's never any weeds in his raised beds. Has he got hundreds of people taking them all out for him? I've always got weeds. But these will all come in over the top here. And then once I've covered these over with just a few inches of the soil, I'm going to take this soil, bring it over to this side here, put another trench in up there, and then put a second row of potatoes in on that side, and it'll be like a ridge, furrow, ridge, furrow. Then as the potatoes come through, we can just earth them up and earth them up and earth them up to make sure that they don't go green. Because one thing potatoes do, and the reason I plant them about 6 to 8 inches deep, is as they start to grow, they rise up. And as they come to the surface, if they get the light, they go green, they become poisonous and you can't eat them. So, yeah, that's my tatties going in and the weeds still coming out. The most important thing is to make sure your tatties have got a good covering of soil. There's weeds everywhere. I've cleared all this out over the last few days. I mean, the soil's in really nice condition. It's really lovely. Put that into there. And the great thing about using a raised bed is you don't get anyone walking on it, so the soil doesn't become compressed. So that's my covering on the first row of potatoes in there. What I'm then going to do, I'm going to shift all of this over to this side and dig my second trench in over there. Well, this is my second row of the potatoes going in. And in about 10 to 12 weeks, we should have a really nice crop of early salad potatoes. That's those there, and of course we've got to just cover those in. More weeds, they're everywhere. So there we go, we'll mark those rows out, we'll stake them up at the end and we'll mark them up, and these are Charlotte salad first earlies, and we'll see what they look like in a few weeks' time. Well, now it's time for me to show you how I plant my sweet peas. Now, I've prepared a tray of compost here. I'm just going to lift these cells out of the tray very carefully if I can without destroying them, because these have been probably used the last 2 or 3 years and it's not very easy to keep this plastic stuff going, but there we go. Now I've got my seeds, they've been soaking for a couple of days in some water. Now I was taught this little tip by a priest we had when I was fairly young, in my teens, and he had a lovely display of sweet peas, and he told me never plant them before April, because he had a little way of doing things and he made things look wonderful. Now the water in here I'm not going to waste. I'm going to put this into this tray here, and I'm just going to let that drop in here, because then once I've actually planted my seeds, I can then pop the tray back into here, and then the pods will take up the water. So I've now got all of my seeds loose in the jar here. I'm just going to pour those into my hand now. And we've got a nice, come on, out you come, nice little array of seeds here. And I'm going to be planting a couple into each of the cells. Let's take those. I'm going to remove this because it makes life rather difficult to handle the seeds. So pop that down here. Drop one in there. Can't have that. That could be the best flowering one of the year. And we'll just pop a couple of these into each cell. And hopefully we'll get a nice display of sweet peas this year as well. Oh, it might just be dead right actually for this amount of pods. So back into there with my marker. Couple there. And then I've got 3 left here, so we'll pop those all into the last cell. Lovely. So that's those into the pods. We'll just lift this if we can now without it falling apart completely. Pop that into the water. And then those cells are going to take that water up. So this has already started falling apart. But that's not a problem. This will be the last year that I use this set of cells. So that's that there. We'll put that down on the side. Now they're sitting on the surface of this at the moment. But what I'm actually going to do now, I've got some sharp sand, which is a horticultural sand, mixed with some light compost, and I'm just going to cover those up. So I'll just grab that from here. And then all I'm going to do is just gently cover these over. And I'm sure these are going to give us a load of joy this year. Just gently cover them over. So all we're going to do is we're basically putting about as much covering over as the thickness of the seed. And obviously the seeds have swelled up just a little bit in the water. And they're going to be very, very happy in here. So there we go. They've got a nice little covering on there. Just give that little tap down. Take my label which says sweet peas, and then I'm going to keep those growing nicely in the greenhouse for the next couple of weeks, and we'll see how they go. Terrific. Well, as the warmer weather approaches, those longer evenings, my thoughts have started drifting forward to strawberries and cream and afternoon teas. But in order to get that, I need to get my strawberries sorted out properly. I've started tidying the patch, and I've got a few more plants to go in there that I've been bringing on in the polytunnel. And as you can see, these are in quite a nice condition. They're growing rather well. And so I'm going to get these into some of the gaps into the strawberry bed now. So we have got a couple of gaps in between some of the strawberry plants here. So I'm just going to bolster that up with these plants that I've had in the polytunnel. And so we'll just start making a couple of little holes in the ground. And we'll take the plants and just pop those in nicely into here. I think I've got about 9 or 10 plants to go in. And so we can get them. So they're going to give me a little bit of a carpet of colours of blossom and hopefully of fruit on the ground here. And these will just add to the existing plants. And I've got a few new ones that I have been putting in. Let's put another one in here. And I'm sure this is going to give us plenty of fruit for our summer. Lovely. Well, I'll just carry on putting those in for the next 5 minutes. And then once I've got all of these in, I'll continue to mulch the whole area, get plenty of nutrients in it, and then pop a bit of feed on whilst they're growing and bringing their flowers and setting fruit, about once a fortnight with a good plant food. Well, there we go, that's the strawberries in. Got to get that mulch now, but before I do the mulch, I've got to get some water on them. So let's just give them a nice drink and welcome into their new home. I keep thinking about strawberries and cream. It won't be that long and we'll get these little babies growing nicely, flowering and bringing forth their wonderful red fruits. And I'm watering it before I mulch it, just to make sure that there's plenty of water in the soil. And then when the mulch is on there, I'm just going to use a compost mulch. And when that's on there, that will help retain the moisture in the soil to give these plants the very best of summers. Right, that's the strawberries ready. So one of the things that I enjoy most about the garden is being able to sit down in amongst the plants and enjoy myself, just taking in the sights, the sounds, the smells. And in order to do that, I put together this little seating area for Julie and myself in the summer. However, the ground underneath now needs some attention. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift the slabs that are here, take out the seating, lay some weed suppressing membrane, and then cover that with a nice bark mulch for us to be able to walk on. And that will also keep our feet cleaner than standing on the earth itself. So let me show you what I've got here. I've got some weed membrane and some weed membrane spikes for actually putting this and securing it down. I've got my mallet, I've got my craft knife, and then I've got my spade and my fork and my hoe and my rake in order to clean and level this area. So let me make a start on that now. Now I'm not looking to have this perfectly level like a bowling green, just a rough level and reasonably reduced on weeds. However, the membrane is going to really help on that front as well. What I have done is I've cut a deeper section here at the front where I'm going to bury the front of the membrane and then put some horticultural sand on top just to hold that in place. Now I do have quite a lot of this stuff and it is just a weed suppressant, but the first thing I need to do is just get the entrance here so that I've got a nice grip on the ground, and this is going to come all the way back down to the back fence. If I do at any stage wish to do any planting, then I can plant through it. So what I actually want to do now is to give myself a grip down with that. So we just take one of these U-shaped pins that will go in to the side here and then get just hammered down into the ground, and we'll do the same thing underneath here. Bring that underneath. And pop one in the top here. Then this front edge will be held by the sand. All I need to do is roll this out. And as I come back, there's a couple of weeds underneath here. Just remove those. And we're going to ensure that this just stays in place. And then when I get the bark on top of here, again, that will be holding this down as well. One into here. So we'll have this membrane stopping weed, and we will also have the bark on top of it stopping weed as well. And then we can put the little chair back into place and start sitting down here with a nice gin and tonic in the afternoon to enjoy the garden. Fantastic. Well, I'm going to get on with this and I'll show you the finished outcome in the next show. Well, just whilst I'm down this area of the garden, I thought I'd just show you, this is the little area that I reseeded last month, and the grass seed is taken quite well. And so another 3 or 4 weeks, plenty of water on there, that's going to start to fill out, and the brown patch will be gone and it'll all be back to grass. Well, now my tulips have finished, and it's really time to take these heads off so that the goodness can come down into the bulbs for next year. And so I just take the heads off, leaving the stems, leaving all of the leaf, so that can then go down. We don't want the plants to put energy into the seeds. We want them to put energy down into the bulbs for next year. So we just remove all of the heads from all of the plants, and these will start to die back in order to give us another lovely display next year. And they've been absolutely glorious this year. I've been so pleased. Leaving them in the ground, getting a second year's growth is probably not the best way. I suppose really you should lift them, but these are doing well. They're a border bulb and they're giving me lots of joy in the early spring. So that's that little job. Got a few weeds that I need to just lift out of here, so I'll pop back here with the trowel and give this a tidy up. Next time I cut the grass, I'll be doing this edge as well, getting it all nicely spruced up for the summer. Well, hello again, and thought it might just be nice to pop back into the greenhouse for a little while today to run over the care and maintenance of our little seeds as they're growing on, and our bulbs and things. And whilst I'm at it, I'd like to thank Marion for your email. Yes, I do have a plastic watering can, and no, I can't see inside it. I don't have magic eyes, and you have a similar problem to me. How do you know that your granulated feed is mixed in the watering can properly? It's very simple. All I have is a plastic measuring jug. It's only about a litre and a half, something like this. And I put my spoonful of feed in there, fill it with water, stir it up till it's all dissolved, then add that to the watering can and fill it up with water. But I do swirl the watering can as it's filling to make sure that it's dispersed through, and I hope that's of a little help to you. But what I've got at the moment, I've got some bulbs and some seeds down here. I've got my peas, I've got my nerines, I've got my latris, and I've got some ranunculus coming through, and they need daily watering at the moment. They can't be allowed to dry out, and even in a small amount of sunshine, these are getting a lot of dryness. So over here I've got my tomatoes, I've got my echinaceas, got my cucumbers down the bottom here. Up the top here I've got all of my lovely dahlias, and they're coming on ever so well. I'll grab a couple down and show you in a second, because I was actually going through some of the old videos the other day, And I realised that I've never, in any of the shows, shown you my dahlias in the ground, which is something I will make up this year, and we'll get it right. So this is how the dahlias are coming on, and they're growing lovely, and they've got a little friend in this one, and that's why I pulled this one down, and that little friend can come out and be disposed of. But these are growing ever so nicely, and it won't be that long until we get the border ready for them to go outside. And they are going to give us a lot of lovely flowers this year. And the great thing with dahlias, the more you cut them to put indoors, the more the flowers grow. So we'll enjoy that. So that's just about bringing me to the end of today's show. So let's wander up to the decking, and I'll just give you a summary of what we've gone through today, but also the plans for the bottom of the garden I'll explain, and also an exciting development with the year gardening, which is in response to a few requests from you, the viewers. Well, that brings us to the end of this little show, and once again, thank you very much for joining me. So a couple of bits of news to go through with you. So the bottom garden where I have my roses, and I planted the apple tree the other month, I'm going to be doing a little bit of recrafting on that area, not planting, but actually a bit of weed suppressant and a gravel garden, and then have maybe a Buddha statue, some gazing balls, and a relaxation area, bit of a Zen garden if you like. And I've got to finalise my plans on that, and I will be bringing that to you in the next couple of shows, and I'm sure it's going to be a good addition to the garden. Now, the exciting news I suppose I bring you in a way is I've had a lot of communication about people who preferred it when I did the weekly shows, and yes, I can understand that, but there is a lot of work in putting together a weekly show, and I'm afraid my health just isn't up to doing that. But what I've decided to try and do is to bring it back to a fortnightly show, and I hope that that is going to be a pleasure to those people who've been in touch with me. And we'll slightly reduce the length of each show, but what I will do is I'll do my main monthly show and then probably a themed show on one particular aspect of the garden in between. But I will formulate those ideas over the next week or so, and hopefully I'll be bringing you another show in a couple of weeks' time. Now, what we have done today, we've been through quite a bit in the garden. Obviously, I've shown you getting my first lot of seed potatoes in, sorted out the strawberry border, started sorting out the seating area. Lots of fun, and I'm so looking forward to being able to just sit for a few days during the summer and relax in the garden, say with a nice glass or two, maybe just a cup of tea, and take in the sense of the garden. So that's it for this show. Thank you very much for joining me, and today I'm going to leave you with a different drink. So Gary, this one's going to confuse you, but I had a gift of a rather lovely single malt whiskey, so rather than leave it sitting in the bottle, thought I'd give it a try. So in time-honoured fashion, stay well, stay safe, be kind to each other, and happy gardening. Cheers.